You're listening to Hashtag No Filter with Zack Peter. That's me, your naturally platinum blonde pop culture connoisseur. I'm the reality TV junkie, self-improvement addict, and host with only the hottest tea spilled fresh weekly. For more hot takes, go and give me a follow at Just Plain Zack. I always keep it funny and I always keep it cute. And if you're like me and you want to stay up to date with the latest reality tea, go and give us a follow at No Filter with Zack on the Instagram, or just join our private Facebook group. The link is in the description below. You're also going to want to snag some fizzy Housewives inspired rosé for yourself. Packing a punch at 14% alcohol by volume, but less than a gram of sugar. I designed it perfectly. Today I'm drinking Now Tell Me Who Gon' Check Me Boo, inspired by Sheree's epic return to Real Housewives of Atlanta. Or actually, we don't know if it's going to be epic yet. We have to wait until it actually plays out, but I'm excited about it. I want her to give us another Check Me Boo moment. So if you want to celebrate, head over to nofilterwine.com. That's nofilterwine.com to stock up on your Housewives inspired rosé. So today's guest has all the juicy details on the Real Housewives, past, present, and probably future. I trust him as like a go-to source at this point. You might know him for his recaps or his articles on Vulture, or you probably read his New York Times best-selling book, The Housewives, the real story behind the Real Housewives. Please welcome New York Times best-selling author Brian Moylan.
Thank you. You forgot the president and founder of the Real Housewives Institute.
Yes.
But you are forgiven.
And that's your newsletter, right?
Yes. Well, I have a newsletter called Housewives Institute Bulletin, because I was calling my recaps the Real Housewives Institute for many years. But so now we have a newsletter every 2 weeks on Fridays.
Love that. And now, so what is your role at Vulture now that you are like a published author? Obviously, you've co-written and ghostwritten for other people in the past, but now you have your own book. It's a New York Times bestselling book. Like, are you like, okay, Vulture, I'm ready to like sail off into the sunset. I'm Andy Cohen now, and I'm ready to leave Bravo.
I just freelance for Vulture. I freelance for everywhere. I mostly write for Vulture these days, and then I do book projects. So I wrote my book. I do a lot of ghostwriting. And other things like that. So, so I'm just keeping on. I do my newsletter for Vulture. I do the recaps there for OC, Beverly Hills, New York, Vanderpump Rules, Southern Charm, Summer House, RuPaul's Drag Race UK. I mean, list goes on and on and on.
Are you excited for Winter House?
I am very excited for Winter House, particularly because Kyle Cook and I are married in my head.
Yes. So are Carl Radke and I.
Yeah. So, we're like fantasy brothers-in-law practically at this point. So I watched the first episode. I loved it, obviously. So I'm very excited for it. I just think those kids are so fun. And unlike the Housewives, at the end of the day, their drama's so stupid and they get over it and then they're friends. And so I find it to be much more relaxing sometimes than some of the Housewives shows.
Do you think this like Winter House, Summer House, Southern Charm, do you think that's going to like end up taking over the network as Housewives kind of fade to the background, or do you think Housewives will always reign supreme?
Currently the highest rated show on Bravo is Below Deck Original Recipe, beating out Real Housewives of Atlanta.
Who the fuck is watching that? Well, I guess a lot of people are. I heard it's good. I should probably get on board.
I was very resistant for a long time because I was like, I can't watch every show on Bravo. Mm-hmm. And then during the pandemic, I watched all Below Decks everywhere. And I really enjoy it. I think a lot of straight people like it. I think a lot of non-Housewivesy people like it because there's not as much drama, although there is drama. But I highly recommend it. But yeah, if anyone's going to take over from Housewives, it's probably going to be the Below Deck people. They're doing another one in Australia. So they're going to keep growing that franchise. But I really like this Southern Charm, Winter House, Summer House universe that we're creating, where it's like younger and funner and more partying. I feel like it's taking the place that Vanderpump Rules has vacated.
Yeah. How are you feeling about Vanderpump?
It's awful. I mean, let's just be honest. I'm still recapping it. I don't love it. I'm trying to take the best that I can from it. But it just seems so manufactured now. And I don't care as much about a lot of the people, or at least what they're trying to show us. So I feel like the show's lost its way a little bit.
How many more seasons would you give it before you think they're going to pull the plug?
Maybe one. The ratings literally halved from the premiere of season 8 to season 9. Went from like 1.2 million, which is about on par with the rest of the Housewives shows, to 600,000, which is fewer than Real Housewives of Dallas had before that got canceled. But that might have gotten canceled for racial reasons too. So who can say? But yeah, I think the writing is on the wall, and I feel bad for Lisa Vanderpump. She had her show tank. She had Vanderpump Dogs tank. She had the ABC Rebel Wilson show tank. Now Vanderpump Rules is tanking. She's in trouble.
She is in trouble. And that's what I was going to ask. Like, what do you think is going to, because now we hear that there's a, rumor that she's considering returning to Beverly Hills, but she wants a $2 million contract. But I'm like, you need to earn that contract. You left the show halfway, didn't film the reunion, and every show you've tried to do since then has continued to circle the drain. And I don't know how many people are watching her podcast. I mean, do you think we're going to see her sail off into the sunset, or you think she's going to try to milk this TV train as long as she can?
I think she's going to try to milk this TV train as long as she can. And I think that she'll end up somewhere. I think that she has a ton of fans and that is still valuable. But
is it though? Because that's the thing. She has a lot of fans and they're very loud on Twitter, but they're not showing up for her.
No, they sure aren't. I mean, she was getting like 200,000 people watching that show, which I actually kind of enjoyed.
Yeah, so, I thought it was the best of what was on the table. Yeah,
and so if anyone planted that rumor about her coming back to Real Housewives of Beverly Hills for $2 million, it was Lisa Vanderpump herself. Because A, she's never going to get that kind of money. I mean, the highest paid housewife of all the franchises is Kandi Burruss, and she makes just north of $2 million for Real Housewives of Atlanta, which is the highest rated of all the Housewives shows. So there's no way Lisa Vanderpump is going to make that money, especially because Real Housewives of Beverly Hills does not need her. The ratings are better than ever, and she's not on it. So it's not like she can say, it's not like she can be like Nene and say, oh, well, ratings are better when I'm around. So,
exactly. Or Bethany. Nene and Bethany were able to play that card because of the value they brought to the show. The way she left, I think, left the show in a place of like sink or swim, and they just rallied together and had to make the show work without her. And, I think she shot herself in the foot, and she continues to.
And from what I understand, when she left and wouldn't do the reunion, she pissed off a lot of higher ups at Bravo. And so I don't think that they're interested in having her back under Housewives of Beverly Hills.
Well, because even Nene and Bethany still knew when to play and to play it out. They still showed up for all the reunions. They did all their press commitments. They did their job. They didn't leave mid-contract.
Yeah, but Nene has done herself no favors that she's gone for the second time.
Yeah, her and Vicky and Lisa, like they all just kind of let their egos get the best of them and ended up just kiboshing their relationship with the network.
Well, and that's what I was fascinated by. So when I was doing this, the research for my book, The Housewives: The Real Story Behind the Real Housewives, Bravo did not participate, and they had emailed all the housewives and told them not to talk to me, and which made it very difficult. And I did end up talking to about a dozen Real Housewives, but some on the record, some off. But so many women who I approached said that they didn't want to do it because they wanted to get back on the show. And these are people who are never getting back on the show, but they're all still holding out hopes that one day that call might come, or now that they're doing Real Housewives Back from the Dead at Dorinda's house, Ghosts of Housewives Past.
Are you referring to
called up for that?
Dana Wilkie?
I actually did Dana Wilkie's podcast because she asked me to on a lark, and it was kind of crazy. She was like, why didn't you reach out to me? And I was like, I did reach out to you, and like nobody responded. And then she was like, let me tell you about your book. And then she like went through my book and told me like how she thought I was wrong about all these things. And I was like, this is as much of an interview as it is me sitting here listening to you like tear my book apart. But okay, Dana Wilkie. But she delivered on the craziness I was hoping for when I said I would go on her podcast. So
well, I did an Instagram live and she happened to pop into it one day and did something very similar where like she hijacked my Instagram live and was like, you never sent me free, because I have my Housewives wine. She's like, you never sent me free wine. And I was like, first of all, it's available at nofilterwine.com, Dana. You can purchase it anytime you want. But I ended up sending her.
Also, bitch, I need to make money.
Yeah, right? Oh, she's funny. Is there another Housewives book in the works or another just Brian Moylan book in the works?
I am working on some ideas right now. We'll see. I don't know. The research it took, especially faced with Bravo's opposition, was very time consuming and taxing. And so I'm not ready to throw myself into another giant research project right now. I think I exhausted Housewives, at least in book form for now. So we'll see. Maybe I'll do another reality show. Maybe I'll do a scripted show. Who knows? I don't know. I'm still figuring it all out.
I have to say, it was really well researched. I know a lot of the Housewives, you were like cock-blocked from being able to talk to them, but you got a lot of really good sources. And what I liked about the book is it gives you not just like the history of the Housewives, but you get into like the history of Bravo. Like I was so shocked to learn that there used to be softcore porn on the network. You know, like all these fun little tidbits that get us into the history of the network and how Bravo evolved and how Housewives was born and kind of chronicling everything that's happened throughout the past, 15, 16 years since OC debuted. It's a really good read.
No, and I think it's important to talk about, Housewives didn't come out of nowhere. So I think it's important to see like the cultural need it fulfills, why it's on Bravo, why, it's how it's taken over Bravo, how it, Bravo has gone through a series of changes over the years and how Housewives plays into that. And I think it's all important about our understanding of that. And I think a lot of people now are like, oh, I'm a Bravo-holic, I'm a huge Bravo fan. And to them, that's just Housewives. And, they weren't around for Top Chef and Queer Eye or, all those other things that came before it that really paved the way for the Bravo we know and love today.
Yes. So I think the question on top of everybody's mind is, have you purchased a copy of Not All Diamonds and Rosé?
I have not. I live in the UK and I don't know that it's available for sale here. So, and no one sent me a copy, so I haven't purchased it. I'm sure I'll read it. Maybe I'll take it out of the library or something so I don't have to buy a copy and support it.
But you've obviously seen all the headlines that have come out from what's been revealed in the book.
Yeah, totally. And it's such a typical Bravo thing for like, they don't want you to know anything about production. They don't want you to know anything about Bravo. They don't want you to know anything about Andy, but they'll let the Housewives trash each other like crazy. And so they're making money off of this book, off of cigarettes and Sonia Morgan's vagina. Yeah. And, and I think that's kind of fucked up that they're willing to embarrass their stars, these women who have made them all this money, Well,
that's what
they don't want anybody to know the truth about what's going on at the network.
Well, that's what Bethany revealed, or she tweeted about how she's like, obviously she wasn't interviewed for the book, but she's like, it's so interesting to see that we're continuing to pit women against each other. And there's a whole tell-all book that's us slandering and trashing each other. And she's like, have I been perfect? No, I haven't been perfect. But like, I don't care to continue to perpetuate this sort of, environment of women not supporting other women.
Yes, or to go back on, and talk about Kelly Ben Simone and Scary Island again and rehash all that stuff. I mean, a lot of the things that we've seen about the book have been kind of trashing the ladies. And, I think they really get a raw deal out of this. They make, less money. Bravo's making all the money. They can sell merch with their catchphrases on it. They can sell their likeness. They can do whatever they want. And like Bethany said, no one gets out of it without paying the price. Yeah. And I really agree with that. But, I think this is I think some fans were disappointed by my book that it didn't have this kind of gossip in it.
Yeah.
Which, I didn't really have access to because Bravo blocked me. And also I wanted to take a much larger look at the franchise than getting into all the nitty gritty and every fight and every season and talk about like how the show gets made and what it says about us that we watch it and all those kinds of things. So, it's different. I think there's room for both of those books.
I was going to say, I think
world.
They complement each other in a way. You can't read one without the other if you want the true, like Not All Diamonds and Rosé. I'm reading it right now, and it's good, but it's like the Housewives kind of sharing their experiences with like producers weighing in, but you don't get the real behind the scenes, scoop on the network or on the shows or on the casting. And that's what I think your book does really well, is it gives a much wider scope or peek into the Bravo world, which is probably why they ended up blocking you, because they didn't want you to reveal some of the things you'd be revealing.
That is exactly correct. So, and I think fans deserve to know both, really. I mean, we're not idiots. And I don't think that there's anything incredibly damaging to Bravo in my book, but they want control over the narrative. Yeah. And so that's what happened.
I mean, and to be fair, Not All Diamonds and Rosé, though juicy, isn't really like a book. It's a transcript of interviews that are kind of just strung together. Do you know Dave Quinn?
I do know Dave Quinn. There's a chapter in my book where I went on vacation with Vicky Gunvalson, and Dave was there, and we met there, and maintain a social media friendship since he lives in New York and I live in London. So it's weird, there aren't nearly as many Housewives people here in the UK, but when you find them, because there are so few of them, that's like your friends for life. So I have several friends here who it's like we just sit around and talk about Bravo, and they come over and watch the shows and whatever. So I have my little tribe over here in London.
I love that. So on Twitter, you alluded to the fact that this was originally your concept until Bravo kind of swooped in and ended up doing their own version. What was your original pitch, and how did you come to the network with it? I sold the book idea, and the original pitch was pretty much the book that I ended up writing, which is just about, the history, behind the scenes, and cultural impact of the show. I sort of modeled my book on a book called Bachelor Nation by Amy Kaufman, which is about the Bachelor franchise, which is also excellent. And I was never a Bachelor fan, but as a fan of reality television, I read the book and I was like, why hasn't anyone done this for the Housewives? And so that was my idea. And I'd always had a good relationship with Bravo before from doing my recaps and whatever I've been doing for all these years. And so I wanted them to hear it from me and kind of approach them and said, hey, I'm doing this book. And then we talked about partnering, and I shared with them my outline. I shared with them a list of people who I'd want to interview. They knew about the book. Dave knew about the book when I was, I talked to him about it when I was on vacation with Vicky. And so, they all knew about it. And then next thing you know, they're working on their own. So, when how far into your book process did you find out about Dave's book?
I was close to done. I think I had done I was doing a lot of research, and it took a long time because, Bravo was blocking things. And, I was literally like going through people's LinkedIns to see who had worked at Bravo and sending them like cold emails through LinkedIn and shit like that. Just like hardcore, like old school shoe leather reporting. And then, that took a long time. But then once the pandemic started, I had a few interviews lined up, and once the pandemic started, they kind of fell away. And so then I was like, okay, no one else is going to talk to me. We're going through this shit. So then I just sat down and finished like writing the rest of the book, and then I was close to done when I found out about Dave's book, and had a few more chapters left to write and got it done.
Yeah, I heard that they even like blocked you from going to BravoCon.
They did, yes. Vulture asked if I could have a press pass to go, and they said no, I couldn't go because I was writing this book. And So I just bought a ticket and went in disguise. I shaved my mustache and I usually wear a uniform. I wear like a gray suit and a white shirt. And so I wore a sweatshirt and a baseball cap and went incognito. But excuse me, a bunch of fans of my recaps still saw me. Like, Brian, I was like, oh my God, this disguise is shit.
So is there ice between you and Bravo? Has it melted now that the books are both kind of out and they've seen the reception of it?
I mean, I hope so. I'm still a huge fan of the network. And while I'm critical of what they do, I still think they make great work. And I still think that, you know, they're doing great things. And I understand they have a job to do and they're doing it. And while I may disagree with how they're doing it, like, you know, that's what we're doing. And like, I get it. There's success out there for everybody. Yeah. There's room enough for all of us. We all love the same thing. You know, at the end of the day, it's all cool. But, you know, they still give me screeners to write recaps.
That's good.
I haven't tried to write anything other than recaps in a while. They blocked me from writing a few articles. Like I wrote an article for the New York Times about how reality shows were dealing with reunions in the COVID age. And I told my editor who wanted me to include Bravo recaps that, oh, I have this thing going on with Bravo. So she got in touch with them and said, oh, if Brian's writing the story, we're not going to participate. So I haven't tried to write anything else to test the boundaries in a bit. So we'll see the next time we come up against them what happens. So
I don't know if I'm one of their favorite. I think I'm similar to you where like I love the network and I have such an appreciation for it, but I'm also not afraid to call out the network when I think that something's being mishandled. And so I've definitely. So when I have to book Bravo guests on my show, I have to like find other ways around it that's not directly through Bravo or catch them on an off season. The whole feud between Lala and Ariana going into this new Vanderpump season was the interview that I did with Lala on my podcast, and then they reached out to me and asked me to sign over the rights to play the interview, but didn't mention my name or the show. Like they played it on the show without giving me the credit, and I was kind of like, okay, I understand. I haven't played the politics game, but will we?
But also that's totally shady, is that like they won't give you anything until they need something from you, and then they'll take it and not even give you credit, which is like kind of a classic Bravo move, but also a dick move. It's like, girl, at least give them some publicity.
I literally drove your opening drama for the new season of Vanderpump that had everybody watching. I did the interview with Sheena, Ariana, and Lala, which stirred up the drama between all three of them going into the season. And I was like, you guys couldn't even give me like to be fair, in the very end of the credits, there was a special thanks to Zack Peter at the very bottom. But
thanks, girl. That's not gonna get nobody tuned into my podcast.
I gave you a storyline, and that's the best that I got from this. But so I'm pretty sure, because everyone's like, you need to do the Podcasters Watch What Happens Live, and I was like, I don't think I'm ever gonna be invited to that.
Yeah, they definitely have their favorites, which like, you know, okay, that's cool. And some of their favorites are people that I really like and whose shows I've done, whose shows I like, and so, you know, but. Yeah, I think that's true with everybody. Like, I don't know if I say this in the book, but I've been saying it about the book and about all this, which is everything about Real Housewives eventually turns into Real Housewives. Yeah. So it's like, you know, all this like apologizing and backbiting and fighting and drama and whatever. I mean, we love these shows for a reason. Or maybe we've just internalized that so much that it just comes out in us.
Right? Yeah. No, it's so good. And I loved reading The Housewives. Everyone, if you haven't gotten a copy yet, go and get The Housewives, the real story behind The Real Housewives by Brian Moylan. I do want to know what your thoughts are, Brian, about Beverly Hills. Obviously, the season has come to an end. You did recaps for the season throughout. Obviously you're watching the reunion, but what are your thoughts about what we're seeing thus far?
I really liked the last part of the reunion. I mean, people are obviously going to disagree with me. I co-authored Erika Jayne's memoir, Pretty Mess, so I know her and we have a relationship. And so I have been more willing, I think, to give her the benefit of the doubt than a lot of people have, since she's someone I know, which I took plenty of heat for on social media and in the comments and blah, blah, blah. Okay, guys, I get it. But I thought in the last part of the reunion, she did a really good job. I mean, aside from a couple questions, she answered everything that Andy threw at her. You know, I choose to believe her. So I believe what she said, and she seemed to have good, valid reasons for what she was saying. So I was pleased with that. I don't know how she's going to do in the next couple episodes, where it looks like she's kind of calling something a cunt and some other things. But, you know, I haven't been in her shoes, so I can't say how I would handle it. I don't know. I maybe with a little bit more equanimity than Erika. But yeah, she is like, she always wants to be so tough, and she doesn't want to look weak or vulnerable. And I think that so she's struggled with that. But I mean, I think it's been a great season. I think all the Erika stuff was great. But on top of that, I think we had a lot of other great stuff. The whole thing with Sutton and Crystal, I really liked. Kathy Hilton was fantastic. Garcelle and Dorit, I think, was some great action. And I also loved, there was that great conversation at the beginning of the season between Crystal and Sutton, where she talked about why you shouldn't say, I don't see color. I think there was that great conversation with Garcelle where she was like, you know, I come into every room and I'm different from everybody. So I think that there were some really good discussions about race and topical issues like that were handled in a much deeper way and more interesting way than they were on New York and Dallas previously. So I thought it was a very, very solid season. I think the ratings reflect that, and I can't wait for the next season of Beverly Hills.
I know. I'm excited for it. I mean, I know production's picked up again, but I think you're right. Beverly Hills did it well, where they were able to stay topical to like the cultural climate that we're in and have these conversations that we needed to have. But my criticism of Dallas and New York is it wasn't. Unfortunately, we have a show that's about entertainment and that's about drama, and that's what people are tuning in for. So you have to make sure that when you're giving people these lessons, it's palatable. Otherwise, they tune out and they just don't listen to it. And I think that's what we missed the mark with on a show like New York, where it turned too many people off. And then it was a missed opportunity to make that an educational moment for us to learn and see ourselves. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, whether there are so many different women on the show, we love it because there are elements of it that are aspirational, but also that we can relate to. There are women on the show that we relate to in our own lives. And I think that's why Beverly Hills did it really well, because we could see ourselves in the Dorit and Kathy Hilton moments where we say something and then we put our foot in our mouth and then we see somebody else's perspective and we're like, okay, now I understand why this comment was a little, it was inappropriate, or how it was tone deaf, or how I, said things like that in my own life. And now I realize I've never seen it played back to me. And now I see that didn't land the way in my head when I said it at that one time I thought it was supposed to land, and we're able to see ourselves in these women.
No, absolutely. And I think the great thing about Beverly Hills is it's always best when you keep it among the women. And those conversations were about those women's relationships at the end of the day. And I think that the best conversation on New York was when Ebony's like, wait, you're calling me an angry Black woman? And, and it being about their relationships as opposed to just like talking about it. Right. Like we always say in writing, like show, don't tell. Yeah. Like I think that was... we were getting showing on Beverly Hills and we were getting telling on New York. And on Dallas, we were just getting a bunch of racists being awful. So, which nobody wants to watch. Well, at least not me. So yeah.
In your experience working with Erika, you mentioned that she tries to be very tough. Did you kind of get that same sentiment working with her writing the book? And how did you kind of melt through that ice to get her to be vulnerable? Because I found the book very endearing, and I even listened to the audio version of it. And you end up kind of liking her throughout reading the book because there is an element of vulnerability and, she peels back those layers.
I think that it's you just need to get to know her. And I just think the more I talked to her and the more, we got down to it, the better she was. And I think that what was good about the book was she kind of got to share that a little bit on her own schedule or her own, using her own voice rather than it being mitigated through the show. And I think that, this was obviously before everything that was going on with Tom, et cetera. So I think she's feeling especially vulnerable right now. And I mean, she's taking a lot of heat from a lot of people for a lot of different things, as well as dealing with, her life being, upended.
Down, yeah.
And, I thought it was really touching when she said in the reunion, like, I'm reassessing everything I thought was real.
Yeah.
Like, that's got to be, obviously she's still in a place of privilege and making a lot of money on the show and has a nice house, a nice car, whatever. But that's also got to be very psychologically difficult for a person to go through. So, I think she's probably being a little bit tougher now than even when I was working with her. But I don't find her to be that tough. Like, I think she's a lovely person. But
Which says a lot, though, because you have personal experience with her directly versus most people that watch her on the show. And like, look, the reality is she the most likable person on the show? No. Does she try to be? No. Like, she, it's a persona that's put on for the cameras and that's put on with this glitz and glamour lifestyle that I think when you actually get to know a person, it's very, it's very different, which is why I think, with Housewives, you have good seasons, you have bad seasons, because ultimately we're seeing a 3-dimensional person or a 4-dimensional person that, like, you're seeing different sides of them every season because it's a show not just about one person's life, it's multiple people on an ensemble cast.
Absolutely. And I always joke about how we don't want our reality shows or our reality stars to grow and change all that much. Like, because it's like, I want Ramona to learn a lesson, but also I don't want her to not be Ramona.
Yeah.
So, I think the best version of this is probably Stassi minus the racist stuff, where it's like she started out really, really awful and you saw her slowly get a little bit less awful, but then once you look under the covers, it's still the same old.
Well, because it's like, and I say this all the time, like, we don't cast these people on these shows because they're upstanding citizens. Like, we're casting them for the mess that they bring to the show. Like, we have to remember the playing field. It's like getting upset with a gladiator when throwing them in the ring. Like, it's just, it is what it is. What do you think the future holds for the Housewives? As the Housewives aficionado, expert, connoisseur that chronicled the history, where do you think it's going from here? Obviously, now we have all the Peacock spinoffs where we're mashing up all of these shows. We have Winter House. We have Ultimate Girls Trip. What do you think the future holds? Is it coming to an end?
Well, Andy always said when the ratings got bad, they just stick a bunch of them on an island and film that. And so when they announced quote unquote Ultimate Girls Trip, which I fucking hate. I still like to call it Housewives All Stars. When they cast Housewives All Stars, I was a little nervous, but Peacock isn't going to invest all this money into all these different spinoffs if they didn't think there was still a lot of juice left in the Real Housewives. And I think that the Housewives fans, as you well know, are a very devout group of people. And so I think even if at some point the audience shrinks enough that they leave Bravo and go just to Peacock, I still think that there's enough Housewives fans to keep them going for a long time. And obviously the shows have lasted 15 seasons, 13 seasons, however long. And I am a little worried about some of our older franchises like Atlanta, New York, Orange County seem to be a little bit in trouble. Vanderpump Rules, they've gotten a little stale. I think that the shows are best when there are organic connections between the women. And I think that the producers of Bravo would say the same. And I think that especially on Orange County now, it's been so long, like these women are only together because they're on the show. They don't really seem like friends. And so I think that there needs to be a way to rejuvenate some of these shows. I don't know if they got a little stale because of COVID or because they've been on too long or what the deal is, but I have full faith in Bravo and the production companies that make these shows to reinvigorate them. Because at the same time, we have Beverly Hills, which has an all-time great season. We have Potomac, Salt Lake City, which are still delivering majorly every week. So there's still life in the old gal yet, but I think that some of them need to be souped up a little bit. I think.
Well, now we have them bringing back Miami. Do you think that we need to be bringing shows back, or do you think we need to be putting some of these shows on ice, or maybe kind of wrapping them up altogether?
I mean, I think that what's always best is when you find a great group of women with organic connections to each other. And I think that maybe you want to start looking in other places or start looking for another group of these women in New York, Orange County, or somewhere else, and seeing where that takes us. And maybe, kind of in some of the cities, starting over from scratch and then taking some of the great people like Lisa Vanderpump or Ramona Singer and doing other types of shows with them in other places. I think that there are a lot of possibilities out there. I'm really excited for Miami. I always liked Miami. And so I'm excited to see it come back. But I think that there are they keep finding us great housewives, like where did you get Mary Cosby from? Where do you get Jen Shaw from? Where do you get Leah McSweeney from? It's like 15 years in and we're still getting these like great women who are giving us great television. And I think that there's still plenty of them out there. I think they just need to find them and figure out the best way to get them to us is. And, there's a quote in my book from Sarah Galley, who has a podcast, and she says, I don't believe in God, but I have faith in the Real Housewives. I kind of feel exactly the same way. Like, I have faith that they're going to do the right thing.
Now that we have these mashup shows, I don't know if you were ever a fan of like the old VH1 of Love shows with Flavor of Love and Rock of Love. I love how they took those shows and they took like the all-stars of those shows and then they created entirely new shows like I Love Money, where they all had to compete for, $250,000, or Charm School, where they brought the baddest of the bad and tried to, etiquette them up a little bit. I wouldn't mind testing out that theory here as well with like a Ramona and a Kenya, and you throw them in a Charm School together and like see who can really be the most reformed housewife.
I mean, I think they should have the next season of RuPaul's Drag Race should just be housewives.
Right? Like, this would actually be fun to see them compete with each other because they're so competitive as it is. I think that would be fun.
I'm excited for Girls Trip and whatever we're calling the Dorinda's House show.
I love that it's the Dorinda's House show. Like, it's Dorinda's show with just all these other former housewives.
Yeah. And I'm excited for that. If only to see like all these women in the same space and interacting with each other. I don't think it's going to be as good as a season of Housewives, just because I don't think they have those deep connections that the women on those shows have with each other. But I think it'll be a fun time.
I agree. Okay. Are you ready to close out with some shady Spitfire, Brian?
Ooh. I love no kind of Spitfire as much as I love a shady Spitfire.
Okay. First up, who is the new queen of Vanderpump Rules? Is it Lala? Is it Sheena? Is it Katie?
Oh my God. I would like to give it to Ariana because she's my favorite, but I think that the queen so far this season has been Lala.
Yeah, I agree. People hate her, but she has reigned supreme. She wasn't even an OG from the beginning. I
know. I hate her sometimes, but I also love her. I hate the way she behaves, but I also love her.
I love her. On a scale of 1 to 10, how likable would you rate Jen Shaw this season? From what we've seen thus far, not from what we know in the news.
Oh, like a 3?
Really?
I mean, I find her to be awful. Even before all this, like last season, I was like, she's horrible. I can't.
Is Seth actually getting laid, or are all of his sex jokes trying to compensate for something?
The latter.
Did Lisa Barlow tell the caterers to pull out?
100%.
You think she did?
100,000,000%. And she totally fucking set that shit up at the restaurant too.
Oh yeah, that was a whole thing because they came out and they knew their lines, and you could see them looking at their cards down under the table.
Yeah, I mean, but my least favorite thing about this season of Real Housewives of Salt Lake City is the fakery of Jenny's "Am I gonna get a sister wife?" storyline.
Should Dewey get a sister wife? That was my next question.
Oh my God, this shit is so made up. It is more made up than Melissa Gorga's fake lost sister.
Oh my God. Yeah, at least she went to the psychic to like try to push that storyline forward.
Yeah, this is like totally dumb. And it's weird because when she's talking about the loss of her stillborn baby, it's very emotional. I think that's all very real.
Yeah.
But then all this stuff, I think they made up for the cameras.
It is really interesting because he's really trying to push it. And I'm like, and they're like trying to be like, well, his grandfather used to have a sister wife. I don't know. Like, it's so bizarre to me. And I'm also like, but this is like what I feel like the producers wanted, because I mean, obviously we touch on Mormonism, but we haven't touched on polygamy, you know, that it feels like this was one of the other talking points within the Salt Lake City world that we needed to hit on.
I completely agree with all of that. But I bet they came up with the storyline and the producers were like,
they ran with it.
I love that idea. Yeah.
Rumors that Leah Remini might be joining Beverly Hills. Do you think she'd actually make a good Beverly Hills housewife?
That's a good question. I think if she had long-standing relationships with like Elisa Rinna and Garcelle, like those kind of Hollywood people, or Kyle Richards, I mean, it seems like she might know all these people, then yes. If not, we'll see.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, she has her own show with the Scientology. Like, does she need housewives?
Well, I think her team's probably in a place of like, we need to evolve this before Scientology and your brand of Scientology goes stale.
Right. I mean, that could be good. What I have been hoping for, and I've been saying forever, is for Cynthia Bailey to join Real Housewives of Beverly Hills.
Really?
Oh my God. Yes. I think she would fit in so well. I think that she would. The ladies of Atlanta love to scrap, unlike the ladies of Beverly Hills. And Cynthia was always kind of the most mild-mannered of them. Mm-hmm. So I think that she would be a good way to bring out the drama in the rest of the women while not being too disruptive. I think it would be good to have two Black women on a non-Black, traditionally Black show together.
Yeah. I think we need to see that. I think that would help elongate the Bravo franchise, is kind of having some of these women hop cities. Or even, I know in OC, they were playing around with the idea of making Vicky's daughter a second generation housewife. I think those three things need to happen to kind of spice things up. We need to have a crossover where a housewife doesn't do a cameo like a Bethany on Beverly Hills, but actually becomes another city housewife. We need a second generation housewife. I think would be fun to see. That we've seen the sisters dynamic, but and the cousins dynamic, but I think a mother-daughter dynamic would be interesting. And then I think it would be nice to see a gay man cast or a man cast in like a Housewives official role.
Well, I think that I am happy with Housewives being a female-only space, but I would like to see. I mean, we're getting a lesbian in Miami. We're getting Martina Navratilova's wife, which I'm like so excited for. She sounds fucking crazy. Yeah. And I would also like to see a trans woman maybe as a housewife. I think that could be good. So I'm happy to keep it a female-only space, but I think you're right. We could branch out more across the LGBTQIA rainbow and find some queer people up in our shows.
I like that. Okay, next one. Keep Dorit or bring back Teddy?
Oh my God. This is the Sophie's choice ever. I can't believe I am saying this out loud. No. I'm going to say keep Dorit.
Okay, I love Dorit. I can't bring back Teddy.
Oh, I can't stand Dorit, but at least, favorite. And I hate her clothes, but at least like she can be there for me to hate her clothes and to hate PK. Teddy, I'm just like, why are you here at all?
Yeah. So Leah McSweeney and Stassi Schroeder are both penning new, like, self-help-ish guides for 2022. Leah's is called Chaos Theory: How to Embrace the Unexpected and Find Meaning in the Madness. And Stassi's is titled Off With My Head: The Definitive Basic Bitch Handbook to Surviving Rock Bottom. Who would you most trust to help you survive a crisis, Stassi or Leah? Which guide are you buying?
Ooh, that is a very good question. I would buy Stassi's because I'm interested in the story of how she dealt with everything.
Yeah.
But I'm not taking either of their advice on how to live. I'm not taking any housewives' advice on how to live anything. I might take Ramona's advice on skincare and plastic surgery, but that is the only housewife advice.
Why hasn't she done a book on that? Like, obviously the Ramona coaster was the biggest flop. I think you said on Jen or Jess's podcast, Hot Takes and Deep Dives, that Ramona's was the least selling book of all the Real Housewives.
It was one of the, it was.
What were some of the others?
Cynthia Bailey and Peter wrote a relationship advice book.
That's right.
I think that was the lowest. Ramona Coaster was low. Leggy Blonde, the Aviva Drescher book was really
she wasn't
low.
Very likable. I would imagine Simon and what's her name?
Yes, Simon and oh my God, I can't even think of her name. Alex McCord. Yeah, their book is really low. So yeah, there's a lot. Vicky wrote a book maybe after like the first season.
She did.
Yeah. That was, I think she was a little too early to it.
Yeah.
Like if she had waited a few years, it would have maybe done better.
Portia's new spinoff. What do you think? Will it be a hit or will it be a flop?
I'm a big Portia fan, so I will definitely be tuning in. And I think a lot of people will be. I'm curious how good it's going to be on its own.
Yeah. It's always hard when you get the housewives on their own because they've mastered the formula of that ensemble cast. They've mastered that that playing field. But when you give them their own show, it's like throwing them into new territory and they don't really know how to carry it because they know how to be one of the other people on the show, but not a headliner.
Absolutely. And I think it's like girl bands or boy bands where you get the five of them together and they're great, but only one of them is going to have a good solo career, you know?
Yeah.
And so I'm curious to see if Portia is that one. I mean, I think she's great television. I think it's going to be a question of who else she has around her.
Do you think Lala has potential to be a housewife?
I think Lala does have excellent potential to be a housewife. She has a housewife's personality. I think she needs at least a decade under her belt before she can get there. When I wrote something after the last season of Vanderpump Rules about, you know, what they could do to fix it. And one of my suggestions was kind of a Housewives Junior with her and Katie and Ariana and at the time Stassi. And seeing them transition into the next stage of life, becoming mothers, trying to balance their relationships and a career and all their other goals. I thought that would be a really good show and just have the guys play a peripheral role. I still think that could be a really good idea, better than what we have now, which seems like they're trying to keep this hard partying drama central Vanderpump Rules alive and are failing miserable because they're all old and have kids.
Yeah, they're in a different, it works on like Summer House because on Summer House, they're all single or well, now Kyle's married, but like they're barely starting to hit that like married life, like where Katie and Tom were a couple years ago and they were the first ones. Eventually Summer House may grow into that stale place if they all eventually continue to grow up, but it works for them now because of the places that they're in their life.
Well, and I feel like with Summer House, you could easily have Kyle and Amanda graduate and you get newer people like Sierra, younger people who are, you know, it's like the same house with new boring. People.
Sierra's not.
She's a little boring, but
so's Danielle. I mean,
Danielle was a little, but you need Danielle around. Like Danielle is such a good utility player. Like she's so good at maintaining Lindsay, who is like such the star of the show, that you need the Danielles of the world. I think.
The balance. Same reason you need like a Kyle Richards, even though people feel like she doesn't bring very much. She brings what or a Melissa Gorga or a Sonia Morgan.
Or a Robin Dixon.
Yeah.
People are like, Robin doesn't bring anything. Robin brings everything. And you don't even realize until she's gone. And then you'll miss her.
Yeah. Brock, what do you think of him and Sheena? Do you think they're going to last?
No. But I am ready for them to break up and for Brock to start an OnlyFans.
Oh, yeah.
I will subscribe. I will and subscribe.
Aquaman themed OnlyFans. Like he needs to lean into this knockoff Aquaman.
I mean, he should be in the Aquaman porn parody of Aquaman. I would pay money for that, even if he were having sex with women.
That's actually my favorite kind of porn. I love watching guys go down on a girl. That's what gets me off.
Interesting. I enjoy like a bisexual porn. Like, I don't mind if there are ladies around, but what I really want at the end of the day is to see hot people enjoying themselves. Yeah. And so if it's like a hot dude enjoying a lady, I'm like into it.
Yeah. Okay. Final Shady Spitfire. Marlo has finally gotten her peach. Are you excited for her, or do you think this peach has grown moldy at this point?
I am excited for her, if only to see her home life, because I think that her with those nephews that she takes care of is fascinating. And I wish we could have seen more of that over the past few years. And I'm excited to see a new depth to Marlo, because I think it's really going to humanize her, and we're going to like her even more, that she's not just going to be like mean and shady. She'll also have this thing where she's like taking care of young people and seemingly doing a decent job. So I'm very excited to see that.
We'll see. I kind of feel like she's going to get her peach this season and she's going to lose it.
I mean, there's always that possibility. I'm just so excited Sheree is back. Yeah. I don't know why they got rid of her either time. I think she's one of the best. And I am more excited for Sheree to be back than Marlo. Even though I'm ideologically opposed to bringing women back, Sheree is the one exception, I would think.
I agree. Brian Moylan, thank you so much for chatting with me today. Where can people go and follow you on all the social medias?
You can find me at Brian J. Moylan everywhere. You can buy the book at thehousewivesbook.com. You can sign up for my newsletter at vulture.com/housewives. And you can find me on Grindr. My name is Mustache Rides.
Oh, are guys taking a ride on the mustache?
I mean, it's been known to happen.
I love it. Everyone needs to go and grab a copy of The Housewives, the real story behind The Real Housewives. It's on sale right now. Brian, thank you again so much. Guys, give me a follow at Just Plain Zack if you want to keep up with me. Slide into my DMs. Yes, I am very single. You can follow the show at No Filter with Zack on the Instagram. We go live every Tuesdays and Thursday nights. New episodes drop every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I have a live to tape tonight. We're taping this on Tuesday, so I'm going to chat with you all very soon. So go and give me a follow right now. Love you. Mean it. Don't forget to get some Housewives-inspired rosé at nofilterwine.com. Let me know which ones you're drinking this weekend and send me your pics. Preferably clothed, because I've seen some of your crazy, wild bachelorette parties, and y'all be getting wild. All right, guys. Love you. Mean it. Talk to you soon. Bye.